Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are usually two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But today we are three friends.
Three friends. Get ready, you flatbutts. We
are so excited. I love that 1920s. Thank you, Laura. You're bringing in the energy because we have Emily Edwards on to talk about her new book, Viviana Valentine Gets Her Man. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
We're so excited to talk about this book. It was so much better than the DaVinci Code, unfortunately.
Even though it was inspired by the DaVinci Code, correct?
Straight out of it. How'd you know?
I'm so surprised by how much symbology you discussed in this book.
Oh, tons of it.
Even in Holland, throughout just running through Paris, sweating my old man Katushkas off.
You're on a private plane for some reason, and then you're on a bus sleeping.
So much money at my disposal in order.
What a great mystery. Would you want to tell us all about your book and how similar it is to DaVinci Code?
Yes, it has nothing to do with the Virgin Mary right off the bat.
Which was disappointing.
Despite the fact that the two main characters are Italian, they don't really mention Catholicism all that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, in seriousness, Viviana Valentine Gets Her Man is a 1950s historical fiction mystery novel that I wrote a couple years ago, and it's finally out now in the public. And it follows Viviana Valentine, a character with a really fantastic name, as she is the girl Friday to New York City's top private investigator. And one day in the blistering hot summer, a man walks into their office and asks them to trail his daughter and find out why she's not marrying the gentleman he wishes her to marry. And of course, Viviana goes, he's 40 years older than her. This is a very easy case. And then it isn't, because the next day a body shows up in the office, the locked office, and Viviana's boss goes missing, and she has to take up all the cases in order to solve them and make sure that her boss does not get pinned for all of the crimes.
So
listeners,
fun.
get that sepia filter over your
Exactly.
eyes. That's what I had.
Have some
Get those
click-clacking
accents
of
in
the-
your flat foot. And the old so-and-so.
Hit the streets, the hot New York City streets, with a great talk about girdles, which I appreciate,
Yes.
because no one talks about
Realistic.
how uncomfortable girdles are, and this was
For sure.
girdle
She
representation.
takes off her underwear like 6 times in the book because
Yeah.
she's just like, I'm gonna die. And I'm like, yep, exactly. It was horrible.
I can't eat in this.
I'm being like,
sweaty.
I'm so sweaty.
The amount of representation of just sweaty undergarments. I was like, yes, thank you. I needed to read about this because this is accurate.
You see people who reminisce about the 1950s and they show the aesthetic and they're like, yes, it is very appealing. And then you forget just how much boning and lycra and
Yes.
rubber and horribleness it is. And I'm like, I never want that to come back. I love sweatpants. Sweatpants are great.
We all have bad posture because nothing is holding us up, and that's okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Let your spine move. It's okay.
We got to keep chiropractors in business.
Really.
Yes, we don't want them to get into anything else besides cracking backs. That can get dangerous.
I do have a question though, in regards to the 1950s and your research involves that, because I found myself a couple times Googling things because I was like, what the heck is a land camera? And I was really impressed because I was like, oh wow, there's still a lot of research in this. So I was kind of wondering what was the process to kind of figure out okay, what things are going to be accurate here? What things do I want to include?
Everything was on the fly. I was like,
Really?
I don't know how the hell you wrote a book before Google existed, because it must have just been horrible or incredibly inaccurate. But now I'm just kind of like, were Polaroid cameras in existence in 1950? And it turns out, yes. And then my book got so much easier to write.
I'm so impressed that this was all on the fly, because there are a couple things that I go, I'm like, were they really doing that? And this time,
Yeah.
wow, okay. So I'm impressed.
Thank you. It was very hard to write because I think a lot of people they have an understanding of what existed in World War II. And then you have an understanding of what existed in like the 1960s, thanks to Mad Men and stuff like that. But I don't think there's a whole lot of understanding of like just how long ago 1950 actually was. It's like 70 years ago. And that's a really long time. Right. And so like I was even coming into places where I was just like, you know, surely they must have had, this one comes up in the second book, but I'll explain it to you now. Surely they had glass shower doors in the 1950s. No, glass shower doors weren't invented until like 1965. And I was like, oh, it's just like things you don't even think about were in existence in 1950.
That's so impressive. There was recently, this is off topic, but 99% Invisible just did an episode on the bicycle, because the bicycle came out like after the automobile. And it's just like, why did we have like automobiles before bicycles?
It's like simple gear ratios. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Like it just took forever for people to like start riding bikes. And then if you think about it, it's like, because like you had a horse and buggy and that was like the term. So like you needed something like auto before you had something where someone like felt well enough to pedal on. Yeah. And so it's so strange to be like, glass shower doors do feel like they're out of the 1950s. So it's shocking to like be like, I guess they didn't exist. Yeah. What made you like decide to do 1950s like His Girl Friday series as like your first
Mostly one? His Girl Friday, which is like the greatest movie ever made, but also horrifying when you watch it now because you're like, how dare you speak to someone that way? But like it really is actually that push and pull between like, you know, we have these images of like Rosie the Riveter, you know, like standard, in 1940, like, the first like or second-ish wave of feminism, woo, women got respect. And then it's like, nope, not the case at all. It was hell. And so like I find that sort of like crux of after World War II is when we think of like America becoming a really modern country, and it freaking wasn't. It was so backwoods. And so like, you know, there's a scene where she's like walking down the street and someone's selling fish out of a wheelbarrow with ice. And it's like, that's accurate for 1950. And so like, you think it's like, you have the atom bomb and like wireless communications and planes, like, and bombers and stuff like that from the 1940s. And then the 1950s, you were still like, nothing of the world we know of existed. And I just, completely blows my mind. It just completely blows my mind.
You still have operators who are like, honey, we have other calls.
Yeah. Like, I can't look all over the place with this guy.
like literally, in the first edition of the book, the first draft of the book, Betty, who's a nurse and one of Viviana's housemates, was a switchboard operator. And she was just like, I'm afraid that direct dial calls are going to put me out of a job. And everybody's like, no, honey, that's never going to happen. And it's like, it happened in 2 years.
That's amazing.
That was actually one of my questions was, were there any things that you like cut from the book that didn't make it into the book? So that's interesting that Betty changed careers.
Yeah, she went into medicine to choose from. Like
that is true. You're working at the limited thing. You have the model, you have a nurse, you have I believe what is a teacher?
Yeah, one's a teacher. And it's like that's most women in the city if they were allowed to work. Yeah.
Were there any fun parts that you cut out where you're like, I wish I could have kept that in, but it just didn't fit?
A lot of it was the telephone operator stuff because like she still is in the book like an insatiable gossip. And I was like, well, that's like the greatest job in the world for someone who's just like nosy all the freaking time. Like being it's your job to listen in on people's conversations. Like you had to listen in so you knew when to unplug. And I'm like, in a city like New York where you have so many important people making phone calls and stuff like that, I was like, you must have had just no wonder there was like gossip columnists up the wazoo back then. It was just like, you just had stooges and like spies listening to everything all the time.
I'm from a small town, but my grandma often tells a story about like how they used to have a party line for the phone. And there was always just this one lady apparently that was like always just like hanging on the phone, listening to try and figure out everybody's business. Like, and she knew it all.
Your dentures, Ethel. Like,
we need like a confidentiality agreement. Like you cannot disclose this for at least 3 years because I need to talk to my mom. Like, what was like your favorite part about writing like the historical book? Was it because like researching, or was it just like writing, having fun, or?
it started out just as like having fun and like an exercise, to be honest with you, because like I never thought I could write a mystery novel, even though it's my favorite genre, because like it's really complicated. And I'm like, I'm not smart enough to do that, but like let's just try. And so it was mostly just like stretching muscles I didn't know I had, and like trying to make it not obvious, because like I've had years as an editorial writer. And so like you just like start out with what you're trying to say and then just like talk about it in 500 words and that's it. And then all of a sudden it's like 80,000 words where I have to obfuscate everything. And it's just like, oh no, I don't know if I can do this.
I mean, you did it. It's really good. I had a good time.
Thanks.
So the characters are really funny. And we know that you were funny because we listened to your podcast and we've interacted with you before, but I was just kind of wondering, like, did the humor for the characters come naturally to you to write it, or was it something you're kind of like, what would they say?
I have to admit that like a lot of the slang and stuff like that, and like the like the way that they talk, like I've seen a couple people be like, oh my God, that is overwhelming, like it's too much. And I'm like, first of all, everybody nowadays talks in modern slang and we don't find that overwhelming. So it's just like harken back 70 years. But at the same time, also like that, like, this is how my parents talk. My parents were born in the 1950s. And for some reason they talk like 1940s gun malls, and like, amazing. I have no idea why. And so like literally to this day, my mom will be like, how you doing, doll face? And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Born in
Love it.
1953. Like, what is the matter? But
who are you talking to?
Like, just are you gonna hold up a bank later? With like, what is happening?
Amazing.
But like, and now I kind of forgot what the question was. So.
No, if the humor came naturally,
but
yeah, was the humor natural?
Yeah, you know, I'm never gonna write a sad book. You know what I mean? Sure. And so like, even though there's like crime and murder, like I was just like, no, people need to, the defense mechanism of humor is always there for everybody. And I feel like it was also just like a huge part of post World War II trauma kind of thing of like, ha ha ha, we're going to put up fences as far out as we can. And it almost always comes out as like really bleak and black humor in New Yorkers. So I was like, yeah.
That is very true. No, for your mom and the slang portion, I do want to say that like someone once said the best sociological experiment is people who are on TikTok explaining a TikTok trend to another human is like anyone trying to explain slang from any century, because like it just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
And I was going to say that the Viviana, when she finds the body, is one of the like most hilarious moments in the book. And she's like talking to the faceless officer who we never find out who it is, but he always knows her. Like, that's just the best running joke.
I was thought to myself, like, there's not too many broads who are calling into the police and being like, listen, fella, I got a body in my office. And they're going to be like, okay, Viv, I know who you are. Just like, we'll have someone there on the double. And it's just like, yeah, there's only so many girls who are calling the office, like not screaming. You know what I mean?
I have a small business, and so I know that you always have like that one customer that they don't even have to like say who they are. They just start talking and you know who it is. So it's like, okay, here we go again. So it's like that same situation.
I did want to ask, I asked this of all authors because I find it fascinating. Who was your favorite character to write, and who was the one that you had like the most trouble with, like finding their personality?
Oh boy. Viv is really easy for me to write. Like I have in my mind like an alter ego, and her name is Viv, and this has been happening for like 20 years. So like it's weird, but like, you know, those little old ladies who can like hold a smoke and a drink in the same hand, and like they talk like they have smoked 4 packs a day and stuff like that, that's Viv in my mind. So like, just, you know, far in the future, where she just like has smoker's voice, wears way too much leopard print, you know, like one of those ladies. And so it was like, Viv, super easy, just like subtract 50 years off of that lady. But I really like writing Tommy.
He's fun.
He's fun.
So fun. And like, it's just, I write Tommy as a good person, you know. It's just like he believes in Viviana. He has a lot of respect for Viviana. He, you know, he's like I would probably get accused of making him anachronistic, of like, men like that don't actually exist in the 1950s. And I'm like, this is fiction, and why not? But I had a really hard time writing Tallulah Blackstone, the daughter, just because like she is like, I am not a terribly like carefree, irresponsible kind of person. And I'm always just like, dot the I's, cross the T's within the parameters of the rules. And she's just like, what? And like, I just like, I kind of like shudder when I'm writing. She's so opposite from me whatsoever.
She is very like carefree, rich person who's like, I don't have to worry about this. What are we talking about?
I'll send some money in the morning.
Exactly. There's nothing that she breaks that she can't just like fix with just lots of cash. And I'm like, and like, I went to like a private like arts college and knew those kids who were just like, what do you mean Tuesday night isn't for cocaine? And you're just like, I don't know. I had to work and go to class so I don't fail because I can't afford to take this class again, you know? And that's like,
or the cocaine.
Like I don't have the money to like do that.
Me, when I was like, I have $20 and this is all I have to spend at the bars tonight. Like,
exactly. I'm like, part of me is just like, you're not allowed to complain about your student loans if I know how much cocaine you did in college. Like,
rule of thumb.
Just a beautiful
small
rule
caveat.
of thumb.
I was kind of going to ask a question about Tommy too, because I was at first a little nervous about his character. I was like, okay, this is a mild spoiler, but I was really worried he was going to turn out to be the bad guy. And so I was so nervous that we were going to get there and he was going to be the bad guy. And I was like, no, he's such just like great support. And Viv has like all these really supportive people in her life. So I'm glad that you went that direction with it. But I was kind of wondering, like, this is very spoilery, but in future books, are we going to get more Tommy?
Oh, you get a ton more Tommy. Like,
okay, good.
Let me put it this way. Like, the number one influence on these books is Nick and Nora Charles from the Thin Man series. And so Dashiell Hammett wrote one called The Thin Man in the 1920s. If you've never read it, it makes no sense whatsoever. There is no plot, like, and it's just like they're drunk and then charming and then there's a murder and it gets solved and it makes no freaking sense. But then they turn it into a movie series with William Powell and Myrna Loy in the 1930s. Is absolutely to die for, except for the last one, which is just hot garbage. And like, they're just charming and rich and they drink and there's a murder and they have fun and they solve it, but it makes a ton more sense than the book.
Awesome.
And they're just a really fun married couple and they have like a ton of respect for one another. And I'm just kind of like, I feel like that sort of partnership isn't shown a lot in books like ever. And so I'm like, let's get that a little bit, where you just have people who really do function somewhat like as equals and they rely on one another. And, you know, it's just like a really healthy relationship that they have.
Yeah. And all throughout the book, you know, Viviana is trusting of Tommy. And that's, I think, maybe why I was like, oh, I don't know about this. But like, I was glad that it worked out.
In real life, he would be the guy who did it because it's stupid any other way. But I'm like, this is fiction. I can make him like not the culprit. But like in actual, you know, if you find a locked room with a dead person in it, the guy who owns the key is obviously the person who did it.
That's the best part about mysteries. It's like, it's never supposed to be the easiest answer. And that's also historical fiction. Technology is not on their side for where to
exactly.
I'm so excited we get to learn more about Tommy and spend more time with him.
Yes.
I also, this is so like random, but like, do we get to hear more about the food that Mrs. K cooks? Because I adored all the food. Like you talked about it so much and I was like, are these like family recipes? Because it feels like
so like all of the American food that she cooks is stuff that's like very of the time, where you're just like, why is there a Jell-O mold and everything is covered in mayonnaise? And you're just like, this is revolting. And it's like those vintage recipes that you see on like Pinterest and stuff like that, where you're like, why would you ever put hot dogs floating in Jell-O? Like, that's so disgusting. And she's just like, this is the greatest thing ever because I came from a country of starvation. And like, and she's just like, I can open up a tin and then there's food that I can eat. And like just the magic of like post-industrial food is just like so exciting to Mrs. K. And then the Ukrainian food that she cooks, my grandmother
penicillin.
Exactly. My grandmother's from a town in Poland that's actually right on the border from Ukraine. So like almost all the food that she used to cook is like same ingredients, but it was called something different. It was called in Polish instead of Ukrainian. And I totally made her Ukrainian before this whole hullabaloo started. But I just like, I didn't want to make her Polish because everybody would be like, because you're writing about your grandma. So I was just like, let's move 6 miles east, and I made her Ukrainian. And then this started, and I'm like, I'm still fine with it because it's great.
Yes, your grandma did run a very progressive boarding room service for girls. That's totally what happens.
My Polish great grandparents were actually building supers during the Depression.
Cool.
And so like they ran a building. They didn't own it or anything, but like they like ran it, and it's literally the only reason why they had a place to live during the Depression is because they ran the building.
Cool. That's amazing. And then I also wanted to talk about, along with the food, the fashion that you write about. Like, was that, I mean, I loved every single moment, but was that more just like you're learning about the fashion of the 1950s and you're like, I have to talk about it? Or...
Believe it or not, actually, I started out when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fashion writer. I was like, I am going to go to New York City and work for Vogue. And I was obsessed with fashion, just like all of it. And you can tell by looking at me now.
You previously said, or like not that long ago, like 10 minutes ago, I hope we never leave this sweatpants era. Exactly. So we know you are all about fashion.
All about fashion. But that's actually just like one of my like honest to God like things I am passionate about and have like an encyclopedic knowledge of. And so like I actually didn't do that much research for the fashion. That's all amazing. Just like from the head, and like there's certain dresses that I knew that they wanted to wear, and like all the dresses that they wear are real dresses that were actually of the time and from the seasons that they're wearing them and stuff like that. And I made some like really fun deliberate choices with that, like the Claire McArdle dress that Viviana borrows. Like Claire McArdle was the mother of modern American sportswear. And so she was like the person who really invented like casual like clothing for women and stuff like that in the 1940s and 50s. She was a really cool designer. She also did, like evening gowns and stuff. So she ran the whole gamut, and she was just a really, really fascinating lady.
That's awesome. I have like a broader question. So when you started writing this book, what came to you first, Viviana or like the plot overall? Because to me, she's such like a standout character that I'm like, I feel like you come up with her and then you just build around her.
Yeah. She was definitely like the character, because I started writing other things about women in the 1950s. And like she kind of is an amalgamation of some of the aspects from some of the other characters and different things. And then I was like, obviously she has to be working class. Like obviously rich people don't name their kids things like Viviana Valentine. You know what I mean? It's just like she has a background, and she's like obviously like a very, very specific person. And so she definitely came first. And then I knew that how I wanted to like finish it, of just like the place of employ of the main bad guy and stuff like that. I was like, that he has to do that, where he is. And, then it all just kind of fell into place from there.
Nice.
Awesome. Nice. And like, I know you said that mystery is your favorite genre, but like, how did you decide to do and develop all the different moving parts of the mystery? Because there are quite a few like stories that get pulled together at the end.
I don't plot. I literally just start at the beginning and go. And then like, and then like the hardest part for this one was coming back and being like, where did I lose a thread in the middle of weaving this tapestry, and like completely forget about clues that I seeded in and stuff like that. And it's just like, it happened quite a bit actually. And then I had to like go back and pull them all the way through and all the way down. But like, I really didn't plan anything, and it just kind of happened. And and people are probably like, oh no, this book is a mess. I swear it's not.
One of the things I like, it's not a mess. No. One of the things I liked was like throughout the book, you include other books in this. And there's even one point where Viv is like, I think I'm going to read through some of these to see how they do the big reveal. And I thought that was so funny. And I just kind of was like, you name drop a couple books like Great Gatsby, and I just think it's interesting to like see how these things like all fit together. And I was wondering if there was like any like books that you specifically were like, I have to mention this one or I have to mention that one.
I'm trying to think, like most of the pulp novels that I name check are just things that I've like made up out of like pulled out of thin air, because like I'm not a huge like 1940 like 30s 40s like pulp reader, but I'm like, this is just going to be so much fun that I just get to make up these absolutely like lascivious, ludicrous names and stuff like that, and I just had a lot of fun doing that. But like when it came down to the mystery novels, like because there's such like succinct eras for mystery as a genre, and you have like the Arthur Conan Doyle and everybody who tried to copy him, and then you have like the Poirot and Marple where everybody tries to copy her, and then Viv is growing up and like living in the Hammett and like that sort of PI era, and everybody tries to follow them. That I was just kind of like, she has to know the beats, she's pop culture aware, but it's also like meta aware of how like she's supposed to be interacting with the mystery and stuff like that. And I'm like, I do that too, where it's just like, I need to go to a party, and when have I ever read about a party before? Because like I have to like, when I lived in LA, and like people would be like, oh, come to like an industry party, and I'm like, is it going to be like where there's like naked people in the pool, or is it just going to be more like erudite people talking about the weird French films that I've never seen, like industry party?
Do I need to watch Riverdale, or do I?
Exactly. Like, how can I know if this joint contains something I don't want to be smoking and stuff like that? It's just like, it's like one or the other. And so you like go to different cultural touch points and stuff like that. And like, it's 1950. She has so much pop culture that she has at her fingertips, like movies, radio, television is just kind of starting, like pulp novels, real literature and things like that. And it was really fun to kind of let her kind of like stew in that a little bit and not ignore it, like you read books where they never mention anything from pop culture. They're like, it's taking place in 1950. I know stuff that existed back then.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I loved that it all started with her like reading a trashy pulp novel, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. And then in the final chapter, she's like, oh wait, this gave me an idea. And it's like the perfect
like kind of women does he have coming around here reading this stuff?
Something like a lot of people now will be like, oh, this stupid romance novel that I've read 45 times and have memorized every single story beat of. Like, I'm too good for this genre that I have cases of hidden underneath my bed.
I read the Bromance Bookclub, and it's like all about men reading romantic novels to like teach them how to be better like husbands and support and like systems. And like at one point they're like, he's like, my wife doesn't read romance novels, and they're like, does she have an ebook? And he's like, yeah. And then they're like, she reads really dirty romance novels.
Exactly.
And it's like, yeah, you should just be proud of them. Like, romance novels are fun. They teach great stuff. But something I loved about this book was like, I could guess a few of the twists, but often they were like not in the right context. So I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen there. But then at the end, I was like, oh, wait, we kind of veered off to the left. And like, how did you decide to like keep people guessing? And I know you said there wasn't much planning, but at the end, when you have them like all in the room and you're letting all the discovery out, like what were you really going for in that moment?
I saw someone recently refer to like the end scene of those kinds of like mystery movies and stuff as gathering the suspects in the accusatorium. And I just have to say that is like the greatest phrase I have ever heard. And it's like, welcome to the accusatorium. One of you is guilty. And I'm just like, oh, it's like culmination scene of all time. I just love it. But when it came to like actually I don't know, like I really don't know. I feel a little fuzzy. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
That's okay.
That just shows that hopefully it was either a poor question or it's just people have to read it to really discover what we're talking about. Because like,
I feel like
it's amazing.
It's probably just something that the story just kind of came naturally to you. And that's kind of the vibe that I got reading it, was that like it wasn't like things were jumping around, but it was like you kind of were taken on a journey where it seemed realistic that things wouldn't happen in this exact order. And you would kind of like, oh, wait a minute, we have to check this out over here first. But wait, this is also happening. We should look into this. And it all kind of made sense to me. So I'm wondering if that was probably what was happening when you're writing it, that it all just kind of flowed out in that way.
Yeah, like it never occurred to me to write like necessarily like make purposeful like red herrings and false, leads and stuff like that. It's just kind of like, to me, like it makes more sense that you would just start down a line of inquiry and run into a dead end and just be like, well, poop, what am I supposed to do now? And then you backtrack and you try to find something else, and like something is not going to make sense until you have all the context clues around it and things like that. Yeah. And it's just and I felt like I wasn't necessarily trying to like trick people. I just was like, crime is like a really messy thing. Like you try to watch, certain movies and they'll just, and it does come out in like a linear fashion. And you're just like, yeah, no, like sometimes a hair is just a hair, and it's like, it's not a clue to something. And you're just like up shit's creek if that's what you decided to, look at for 3 weeks at a time or something. Like I tried to condense the timeline quite a bit, so there wasn't that much time that she could waste. But she books it. Like when I talk about like she walks a lot,
and she talks about her calves being sore.
She's just like, I have to go uptown, downtown, like east, west. I am exhausted. This sucks. It's hot, and it just like, I tried to condense it quite a bit. She walks very quickly. Like that's the only way that this is like a plausible mode of transport for her, is that she's just booking it down the road. But like that was very purposeful to try to like condense the storylines and make it like slightly more realistic. So it also just wasn't like Tommy's missing for 6 months and he's probably dead somewhere. Like
there was that where I was like, Tommy has to be somewhere and I don't know where he is. So.
Yeah, that's like him missing for 6 days is like literally the fastest he could make the getaway that he did and come back, like in realistic time, like in a realistic time period.
Awesome. No, she does book it. And I loved that you like also incorporated real life where it's like, yeah, she's going to take a cab, but she's going to take it out of like Tommy's kitty. Like she's not going to just pay for herself.
Tommy's going to pay for that. He owes me big time.
She's like, I'm trying to get you off of a murder charge. You're going to pay my expenses. Because I don't have the money to take a cab everywhere, even though a trip is like 95 cents. Like,
I also love when she's like, I'm going to do this job for $60. And she's like, I would have done it for 40, but like, he didn't know that. And I didn't pay that much in rent. So like, it's fine.
She's so smart.
Oh, she's amazing.
My big question though is, does she get her love story eventually?
She does. Yeah. Book 2 is when the love story comes into fruition.
Oh, I am excited.
What do we have to look forward to developing over the next couple books? More Tommy, a romance, and anything else you can sneak peek us with?
She gets a lot more political over the next couple books. Like the second book is a sort of like a locked mansion mystery. So, like the great Agatha Christie tradition is you go to a house in the country, you get snowed in, rained in, whatever, and there's a murder and you have to figure it out. But there's a big Cold War twist in that one. And so she has to figure out like, hey, there's a spy here. What are we going to do? And who's trying to murder everybody? And like she has like a real, in this book, in the first book, I try to make her have conversations with people where she's just kind of a dumb blasé idiot, where she's just like, everything's legal in the village, and Dottie has to be like, no, honey, everything's legal for you, not for everybody. And Viv's just like a bumpkin, even though she's been in the city for a while. Like it just doesn't occur to her that there's other people who have it worse off than her. She's one of those people who's like, I'm a broke white girl. Nobody has it worse off than me. And everybody's like, no, like literally everybody has it worse off than you. And so she like over the second and third book, she starts to see things more for herself rather than have things shown to her. And she does become like a little bit more jaded, but it's also just like much more realistic for someone who is now working as a private investigator, like actually in the field, as opposed to someone who just like takes the case notes and buys donuts and stuff like that.
Well, and you have to write these books for the next 50 years so she can get to the point where she's holding her whiskey with her cigarette and she's telling you guys about the good old days.
Exactly.
She's doing the new version of Murder She Wrote. It's like murder she already wrote, and now she's kind of over it. Like,
exactly. She's just like, I've been dealing with murder for 50 years. Like,
you should have seen the first guy.
Exactly. Back then we didn't even have DNA testing. What the hell's the matter with you?
You guys make it sound so difficult. I will say, this is huge spoilers. I was convinced she and Tallulah were going to fall in love in this book. I was like, oh, they're obviously going to get together. And then I was like, no, Hannah, it's not that book yet. And so it's Tallulah in the next books as well, because she was the secretary at the end of this one.
That was the original ending.
Oh no, it was right in the beginning. Oh,
yeah. In the original ending, she and Tallulah were going to get together. But I did not have enough confidence in myself to write an LGBT mystery series as someone who is not gay. So I was just kind of like, she will be immersed in the LGBT community, but she is not going to be queer, because I just didn't want to do that as someone who's straight. I was just kind of like, yeah, no, there's tons of really cool lesbian mysteries, also like mid-century lesbian mysteries, because that's actually like a huge portion of the mid-century literary like mystery canon, is that they were almost always queer. And so like there's really, really good ones. I'll send you a list of them. But and I was just like, no, other people are doing it really, really well. I don't have to. But
I think that's a very fair take. I had just picked up on some sexual tension when they were in the car together. Same. And I was like, I think she might be a bi queen.
Hannah, you and I had like almost identical question, but something Emily said earlier, I was like, oh, maybe that's not the direction it was going. So then I was like, is there a love story?
No, she was that was absolutely a flirtation scene between them, and you can totally read it as that. Yeah. It's just like, I'm not sure if Viv is ever going to be aware enough to be like, I'm bisexual, I like girls too, but she like relies entirely on her female group of friends and has incredibly close relationships with them, and Tally is in and out of the books for the next like proposed, endless periods of time. So,
but that's also like, I don't know, lots of people in the 50s probably were bisexual and just never realized it, because like, well, I'm attracted to men, so why would I ever question why my female friendships are so deep on a level I couldn't even describe?
Yeah, exactly. So like, I don't necessarily want it to be like, oh, one day she's gonna smooch a girl, because that's probably not going to happen. But like, she was definitely actually supposed to end up with Tally.
It's okay. You let us down easy, because when I read the phrase like she looked at her like an older sister, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I love Tally a lot, and Tally she's in the second book. She's not in the third book. And if I get more, she's going to be an absolutely major character. And I actually have a spin-off series in mind with Tally and stuff like that. So like, all of Tally is just such a dynamite character, and she's so freaking cool that I'm just like, oh, I want to build an entire world around her. But I'm glad you read that as a flirtation and sexy scene, because it totally is.
So good.
Her confidence and everything too, like in that interaction, like when they meet up for the first time, really, I'm just like so impressed by her, where I'm like, wow, she's got so much confidence, she's so brave. Like even just like going for that drive, I'm like, wow, I can't believe she would do that. Like, I'm such a chicken in my own life.
She like steals this Cadillac and just goes roaring down the avenues, and I'm just kind of like, oh my God, she's so cool, and she's only 18.
I know.
I'm 37 and I don't have that kind of confidence.
To the point
where I have the confidence to drive my own car.
To the point where Viviana's like, dude, I'm not in a car that often. Like, I'm getting so motion sick.
I am sick.
No, Tally is amazing. I loved her. And also like, it makes sense that like there's a flirtation scene, because like in the 50s, if you wanted to find out if someone was also gay, you would probably be a little bit more forward and be like, we should go hang out for a while and then like kind of do a litmus test. So
like when Tally confronts Viv and the officer in the jazz bar, and she's just like, what are you doing here? The subtext is also like, with a dude. Like, I was not expecting this. Like, what the hell hell was the other night? Like, you know,
I gave you a bunch of clothes.
Heartbroken, you know? And yeah, she's just a really, really sweet character. And I had to do a lot of research into like what was or was not acceptable, sort of like LGBT, like, you know, actions in the 1950s. And it's like, oh my God, if you ever want to be heartbroken and just like sob your eyes out for the state of the world, like, yeah.
But on a lighter note, what can we do to support you and your book and get the word out?
You know, the best thing to do is literally just tell your friends. Like if you enjoyed it, and like a personal recommendation goes so much farther when it comes to books than anything else. Like, you know, if you have an Instagram, just be like, hey, read this book, really enjoyed it, super funny. And just like, that means more than anything. You know, so many people get caught up in like, you know, Goodreads reviews and Amazon reviews and stuff like that. Like they help, but more than anything, just like if you, any book you read, like just tell your friends that you enjoyed it. And also if you can, request it from your library, even if you've already purchased it or whatever, request it from your library. So more people might stumble upon it. And that's really like the best thing you can do for authors and stuff like that.
Awesome. We love a good library plug on this podcast.
Yes.
We support our local libraries so much.
Listen, I did not set my price of my book, and it's $28 for a hardcover, and the paperback is not coming out until next year. And so I'm just like, guys, request it from your library. $28 is a lot of dollars. Like, I love you. I'm not making any New York Times bestseller lists ever, so please just request it from your library. Like, and audiobook, there's an audiobook too. Let me tell you, the narrator is perfect. She is to die for. So like if you're an audiobook person, we are. You have to request it. It's so much fun. I can't wait.
I'm so excited to listen to the audiobook now. You have no idea. No, we definitely huge guys, get it on Libby, get it on Hoopla. There are other, you know, if you want to do the audio route and support your local libraries, those are both good apps to use, and definitely support your local libraries. Or if you have the money, purchase it. We did get our friend Veronica to buy it, and she was like, you guys are really hurting my billfold. And I'm like, use the library for some of these books, like not all of them, but like some of them.
No, it's true. It's really expensive. And I'm just kind of like, no, totally get it. Like, please just library it or Kindle. If you, even still, it's like a $14 Kindle book. And I'm just like, really? Oh my God. So like, here I am shooting my own sales in the foot, but I'm just kind of like, no, it's super expensive. Just library it all the way.
But we will say, guys, you will want this on your shelves if you're a book collector. This is so much fun. It's going to be so much fun to reread. It's
Get out there and buy a flat books.
You should have Laura do your next audiobook.
I'll narrate the next one.
Perfect.
But it'll be really cheap.
Go out and get this book because it's so much fun. We love it so much. And Emily is great. If you guys haven't listened to Fuckbois of Literature, what are you guys doing? Because that's amazing. I've been a huge fan and got us on the DaVinci Code, like we said. And that was an inspiration for this book. So we've come full circle.
I can tell you, I've never laughed as hard as I did when I was talking about the DaVinci Code with you guys, because I was just like hyperventilating.
When we got done recording, I thought, are people even going to want to listen to this? Because it's mostly just us being like laughing and like breathing into the microphone. So like,
we went hard. It was a ton of fun. So guys, listen to that episode because it is zany and gives you a good flavor of all the humor that Emily brings to the table, which is awesome. Emily, before we have everything plugged, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying right now?
So I was talking about the Thin Man series earlier, and I'm actually doing a mini sort of podcast series with my friend Kristen, who runs an old Hollywood podcast called Ticklish Business. And so I'm watching all 5 of the Thin Man series right now. And it really makes me wish I could wear an evening gown, but again, sweatpants, no.
As someone who loves fashion, you're like, no, sweatpants.
Sweatpants.
Look, it's gorgeous, but at what cost?
I'm not putting on a girdle ever. Spanx, no, not going to happen.
Oh gosh. Yes, I agree. So everyone check out that podcast and check out the Thin Man series. I'm definitely going to be looking into it. Sure. And you're even doing the 5th movie, which you told us was hot garbage. So
it is. It's straight up hot garbage, but evening gowns, it's great.
Sometimes hot garbage is what you need though. Like I was recently talking to someone, I'm like, I haven't seen that many movies, but all the movies I've seen, I'm not sure they're good, but they're fun.
They were there.
It was someone who had like never seen The Labyrinth. And I'm like, how do I explain why I love this movie so much? And yet, as an adult, it's going to be a hard watch for you.
Love it.
And Emily, where can everyone find you?
I'm still lurking on Twitter at Ms. Emily Edwards, and I'm on Instagram at the same handle. But if you do want to check out the pod, you can find that at Fuckbois of Lit. That's BOIS on both Instagram and Twitter as well.
That's a fun time. I am definitely an attic wife. So
Team attic wife all the way.
Such a great podcast, such a great book. Everyone go out and buy it, go download all of her episodes, support her on Patreon, which I also do. And, follow everything, rate and review her podcast also, and rate the book and tell your friends about
Viviana
it.
Valentine gets
her man. So good. We can't wait to read the next one. I literally can't wait for the next one to come out.
I'm so excited. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
We loved it. And everyone make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to us as well. It helps keep, everyone coming in and learning more about these wonderful authors we've had on this month. We're really killing it with great authors. Find us at OWWR Pod. That's OWWR Pod. And look at our blog at ourpod.com or email us at ourpod@gmail.com. Everyone have a great day. And thank you so much again, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. Bye.
Bye.